Hey everyone, it's Zach with Palantir Research. Palantir needs to take a significant portion of a potential $300 billion AI market projected shortly for 2024. AIPCon will have a huge effect on potential customers, retail and institutional investors, Palantir developers and users, as well as the stock itself, and here's how. First, for customers, we'll have AIPCon, of course, on June 1st, which is highly important to see what current clients are doing and potentially going to do with AIP, and if it's going to be as useful and transformative to their clients that we would want it to be as investors. What I am personally most interested in, though, first, is if they get a client that goes into the security and governance side of implementing AIP, because I believe that is the main differentiator from Palantir. If you can deploy LLM models across an organization, but still maintaining your security, then that's the main value here in my eyes. The models themselves will become commoditized over time, in my opinion, especially if people are just going to default on third-party ones, meaning everyone's going to have a model of varying quality at some point, and a big driver of this, honestly, is going to be the data that you're training your models on. So those with access to more data and better data, especially when it's applicable to your use case, then the better results you're going to get at output from the LLM. Because right now you've got the chat GPTs of the world that you can't use your proprietary data with. It's very useful for people like us, or at least basic consumers, or you have your own data science teams in-house as an organization running and building your models, but not really pushing it throughout the organization because everyone has a different level of access. So this creates a huge choke point that makes it tough to make AI a widespread tool for an organization. If any client describes something like that as an outcome, I'd be pretty happy though as an investor and as a potential customer if they made this easier. One thing that I really want to take home here is that for myself, working with an analytics team, I wouldn't be surprised if many other organizations operate the same way, where you have a ticket system. Stakeholders are going to put in different requests that are going to require different databases and different data points, and you're going to tie that together, maybe run some models on them, and then you're going to produce some output. But what this creates, right, is a back and forth situation where, the client doesn't necessarily know exactly what they want because they don't know the intricacies of the data. And then as the analyst, right, you don't necessarily know the full business need there. So it does create inefficiencies for an organization when you go back and forth here. Now multiply that when you have a choke point of everyone going to the data science, right? You want it to get as close as possible to the user to be self-service. Obviously, there's different practicalities of this happening with different technologies, but it sounds like Palantir might be the closest to get this into the hands of the actual decision makers and analysts that are going to be using those reports directly, instead of going through an analytics department. Our customers obviously care about price as well and return on investment when they get Palantir, but also practical stuff like this of what is the ease of integration into their organization, and if it's worth the effort, especially around their security teams being appended and having to clear a governance structure that can be managed through this new tool. And this is all on top of the political reasons of CTOs not trying to look bad if Palantir truly outperforms their expectations. So in my honest opinion, it takes strong management backing to implement a solution like Palantir, because there's going to be people and teams that will in the end look useless after the implementation. And possibly this can affect if a CTO will go forward or want to make Palantir a successful tool and apply to the organization. Now, I think to take a significant portion of that $300 billion AI market projected for next year, Palantir will need to showcase their value during AIPCon now, while convincing the right people, of course, who actually make decisions to make deals. But also on the practical end, Palantir still needs to grow their base of developers and users, because organizations like to hire folks who have prior experience with software that is highly integrated or going to be integrated into their organization. It's common sense, right? There's always some learning curve on how an organization uses tools, but there's always a baseline level that makes things a lot easier when onboarding a new hire, or of course, when you're trying to get used to a new tool. So if at least one person has some experience with Palantir Foundry, for example, on a team, they're able to share their knowledge within the team and within the context of the organization and how that's going to be used. It's much more useful than, Palantir from the outside coming into an organization and just kind of teaching whoever, right, on how to use the tool there. So it's hard when you don't necessarily have that inside scoop in how to use a tool already within the org. Now, this is one of the main reasons Palantir has given their software for free during time of crises. Besides getting in a good place with a country organization, right, for future contracts and getting renewals, like Ukraine war and the refugee location, the Turkey earthquakes, and NHS during the COVID, that's just to name a few prominent and recent examples. It's very obvious, right? They want to get some future contracts, but also it's for that pool of users. The largest issue with growing the space of developers is that they can't get their hands on this out in the wild because it is reliant on their organizations using Palantir. So hopefully this is a self-reinforcing cycle as we get on, and there's more clients, then there's more users, and then that means there's gonna be more clients and then more users. So it's a cycle that keeps on building on itself. We'll have to see if that actually comes to fruition. So for investors and the stock, we need to see the AIP platform actually works, is differentiated, and brings value. And also, the last one here I want to go over has the ability to scale to really capture this fast-growing market of AI. So we did talk about the developers here, but we're also talking about how can they create network effects out in the world. So AIPCon will showcase use cases of artificial intelligence across different industries and different clients. What I think would be cool, and this is speculation on my part, is that these are all pretty much huge enterprises, and we could see a lot of value from Palantir if their data strategies were disorganized beforehand, and let alone adding AIP on top. Then it's going to make them really good because they've organized their data, they can run analytics, and now they can run predictive analytics with artificial intelligence because it's gathering as much data as possible within the organization and outside the organization. So investors will want to see how clients actually improve from a before and after perspective, as well as the ability to expand AIP's use case across an organization. And what this shows to investors is that it only takes a small use case to exemplify the value that Palantir can provide, and in turn means more usage and expansion within an organization. Now, this is what I was talking about here in growing the market of AI much faster, is if now this is a bonus, and I'm saying this is highly speculative here. Now, for AIPCon, if they can show possible network effects, so not just within one organization by themselves, but outside where a client potentially uses it, and maybe someone related in that industry can somehow use sharing, right, of maybe benchmarks. So not giving proprietary data away here, but still being able to bring value to each other in some way because they're able to benchmark against each other in a public way. And this is with, of course, publicly disclosed data, I'd assume, as well as, there's a lot of things out there like financial reporting, press releases, things of that nature, and then whatever they choose to share maybe with certified partners. I'm not saying this is a thing, but this would be a possible network effect if you can get multiple big players within an industry. Maybe it's a duopoly. I would say actually the biggest industry that this would be easier to implement in would be in monopolies, right? And this would be utilities, you have water, electricity, anything here where you actually are designated by the government of like, this is your section, this is where you can make money. So in the end, you're kind of competing, but you're not competing, right? If there's a different utility company, you'll be able to compare, maybe not geographically it's the same, but there may be some similarities since you guys are doing the same thing and how you provide electricity to others, and then seeing if you guys are doing it in a efficient way that everyone can win. But yeah, that's just speculation on my part. AIPCon is going to be big because it's going to be the first one here where we have focus on artificial intelligence. And I think this is going to be really useful for investors to see possibly how the rest of the year for Palantir is going to go and into 2024. This is going to be very big considering the AI market right now seems to be the hot topic. I know it might be seen like a hype train, at least for the stock price itself, but for the business side of things, organizations are trying to implement this in a smart manner. But let me know your thoughts below on the upcoming AIPCon, and I'll see you in the next video.